Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. My second guest is Ethan Harris. I actually know Ethan because he's my coach. I've been following Ethan since probably about 2020, 2021, and I've been coached by him for the last 6 months. I think the thing I respect most about Ethan is his integrity. I'm someone who has a lot of integrity and he puts me to shame. He has got the most integrity out of anyone I've ever met. So we talk about Ethan's online coaching, we talk about his experience competing, and much more. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Our second guest is actually my coach, Ethan Harris. He has an online coaching business, Enhanced by Harris. Um, Ethan, talk us through your journey of becoming an online coach.
Okay, cool. So, first of all, thanks for having me on. Hopefully, this podcast does well for whoever wants to listen to it, and hopefully, I can have some kind of insight and some help into someone's life in whatever way that may be. So, my fitness journey slash kind of coaching journey started relatively young. I was in kind of before online coaching was like a real big thing. I thought and started the process from when I was 15, 16, and I'm currently 24. So did like PE, so physical education in school, then went to college coaching, which kind of covered everything from injuries, psychology, like sports things as well. So I done qualifications in did that in college, then went to university and did sports studies, which was very much the same as a sports coaching, just obviously the degree of it. So then we went a bit further into psychology, injuries, diet, nutrition, all that kind of stuff as well. So then got that degree. Whilst I was doing that degree, I then got my level two fitness instructor and level three personal trainer. So I started off in person, and I think that's kind of a real big thing and kind of understanding that you're dealing with people. I think when you first go into online, it's almost like I liked the fact that you understand that you're working with people, and I think that makes a big difference programming as well, and understanding that everyone is equal. So I did that, worked in a gym as well, and this was when I was like, personal training just isn't for me. I didn't, as much as I liked the in-person thing, I didn't as well because everyone wanted the same time, everyone wanted like the same kind of things, and I just found the people that I was working with was very commercial, and they were paying for me to motivate them rather than me to get kind of what I wanted from it. So I didn't quite get the thrill. So in about 2018, 2019, I went online, started to do online, lots of things for free, just helping people out, getting results and all that kind of stuff, and then kind of realized I kind of know what I'm doing. I'm quite good at this. So kind of built up my clientele, built up my portfolio, and that was when I ran into and met Josh Bridgman. So those of you that do know me, I was the second coach at JBF Brigade. So was the second coach for Josh Bridgman. We worked together. I think we worked together for about 18. Did everything we needed to do. I then kind of wanted to spread my wings and go a bit further. So left Josh, left that coaching, and then started off Enhanced by Harris. And that would have been about 18 months ago. And then since then, just kind of been progressively getting better, if I do say so myself, as kind of like my own individual with Enhanced by Harris. Yeah.
Um, my next question is, what inspired you to become an online coach? I remember you saying originally you were like an in-person like PT. What like kind of inspired you to like move to online coaching?
Um, I think with today's day and age, everything is online. If you want to make serious money, and want to be able to kind of have that wider scope, I think online is, it literally went from being with like mums that wanted to do PT in the guys that had injuries that could only do like 10 o'clock and things like that. And I just found myself very limited. Being in a like in a commercial gym, only charge a certain amount because they tend to be in a commercial gym because of the prices anyway. So it was kind of like taking a step back. It was also during COVID, and when I couldn't then do things in person, it was like, right, what's the next step? Online. I've then got this worldwide audience. I've got the ability to work with everyone that wants to work with me rather than just certain people that see me in person that like live close to me. And then you've then got that scope to kind of be more holistic, and have more like just more of like an independent approach, more of a different approach that I wanted to do. And obviously in person, it's kind of like just do your training, and that's all they really wanted. And even then, they wouldn't even train that hard. Whereas online, as you know, I can work with diet, nutrition, like your own kind of heady, the animal. I think training only does so much, as you know, but it's kind of the other stuff you do. So if I can be there to help and assist, that gets them better results.
Yeah. My next question, do you think the online coaching industry is currently saturated?
Um, I think it's definitely saturated. I think my views on it is that it's saturated, but it doesn't matter. If you're good, cream will always rise to the top. And I think it doesn't matter who's out there, an audience, and you're doing what you're doing and you're doing it well, you're always going to strive and you're always going to do well. So I think if you'd asked me 2 years ago, I used to think it's way too saturated. I don't like it. And ultimately, it was just because I wasn't a very good coach, or I wasn't a good enough coach. I could provide results, but there was nothing kind of stepping me forward. So yeah, it's definitely saturated, but it doesn't really matter. I think, if you ask me again in 6 months' time, there's going to be another 5,000 coaches out there that are doing very similar things. But when you are good, it doesn't really matter. Yeah.
My next question is, how has competing in bodybuilding no, sorry. You've recently competed. What was your inspiration for
Yeah.
deciding to compete?
Um, I think it's always something I wanted to do. I'm very much someone that wanted to step on stage because I love training. And I think that's what separated me in terms of the hardships of prep and all that kind of stuff. So, when I was like 15, 16, I kind of dabbled in like watching like the Arnold documentaries, like Pump and Iron and things like that. Like every kind of teenager would do that, was stem from there. CT Fletcher, Pump and Iron, like those kind of documentaries that, although very like uninformed, it was definitely something I wanted to do. Did I really think I was going to do it? I don't really think I did. And it got to one point where I was like, it's basically my job now. Why not just do it? Um, and I kind of just gradually got into that, kind of gradually just push, not necessarily push myself in that route, but I just fell into that place. And it came to a point where, like I said, I was training, it was going well, my physique was growing, and I just thought, why not? I think the final deciding factor for me was I fell out of love with it all. I left my coach, I went on holiday, and I was just like, I don't want to bodybuild anymore. But that actually then made me want to bodybuild more once I'd outright said, I'm done. It was almost like the next day, like a weight had come off my shoulders, and I was like, right, I want to do it now. So went back to my coach. This was what would have been November last year, November 2023, said, I want to prep. 2 months later, we started to prep. Then obviously got into it, did the whole competition and everything, and it was something I'm very glad I did. Like I went from hating it, wanting to get out of it, to now I'm like, I just want more of it, and I can't wait to do it again.
My next question, how has competing in bodybuilding changed your eating habits and perception of food?
What was that one again? Sorry, you lagged out a little
Oh,
bit.
sorry. How has competing in bodybuilding changed your eating habits and perception of food?
Good one. So I've always been, as you know, someone that struggles with food. I've always had bad, um, I'm not going to say eat, yeah, I'm not going to say eating disorders, but I think majority of bodybuilders, if not all bodybuilders, have disordered eating. And I think there's a very fine line between eating disorder and disordered eating. You know, we are made to think we have to eat exactly at this time, exactly this meal, exactly this, that, and the other, which can cause issues. And I think if you are a bodybuilder, whether you like it or not, you probably do have some kind of disorder. It's definitely changed my views where it made it better, but also for the worst, if that makes sense. So I'm much better, and I like before stepping on stage, when I fell out of love with things, it was just a case of let me eat everything because I didn't really have a purpose. It was like I originally started this whole journey because I wanted to eat more food. If I went to the gym and I burned 300 calories on the treadmill and I did a hard leg session, I've then done, like 1,000 calories, which means I can go home and have a Ben and Jerry's. And that was kind of like my views on things. It was like, I'm tired, I don't want to train today, but I really want an off-plan meal. So I'm going to go and I'm going to train. Um, and then it kind of went towards like when I got more serious in it, it was like I'm now I'm fueling my performance, and that was what it was. It was like food is fuel, which worked quite nicely, but also just made me almost like the other end of the spectrum where I just didn't want to eat, and it was like more of a disorder, like more of an eating disorder. And then obviously through prep, as you know from dieting and things like that, you get hungry, your hunger hormones all over the place. You finish prep, you lose these goals, your goals change, you watch yourself kind of get fatter and fatter, and you start to eat more because you feel sorry for yourself. You know you shouldn't be doing it. You know it's not good for you, it's not good for your blood work and all those kind of things. And then you're like, well, I feel shit. Food's made me feel shit. So I'm gonna help myself and eat more food. Like it didn't really make sense. So I think it's definitely the best it's ever been. Like I'm able to go out and see food as a way to see people, meet people, interact and have fun and be in the moment. Whereas originally it was like, right, I'm going to see you or I'm going to do this because I know food is there. Now it's like, right, food is just a nice little add-on.
Hmm.
So it I think I've always struggled with binging. I've always struggled with food and food focus, but it's drastically changed. Like it did get very bad. And now I'd say the last probably 2 or 3 months since coming off stage, it's been the best it's ever been.
My next question is, which kind of people shouldn't use insulin and which people should?
Okay. Quite a hard one to kind of like with the time we've got, it's
Yeah.
quite hard. Realistic, who should use insulin, who shouldn't? I don't think anyone necessarily needs insulin unless you're diabetic and you're going to die. Like, do you really need insulin? Probably not. Um, Without going into too much depth of it, if you want to be as optimal as possible, and you're eating sufficient amounts of food, and you can see, you are tracking your blood glucose, you can see yourself getting visually fatter, and your blood glucose is raising or getting higher, then you would be someone that would potentially want to use insulin. I wouldn't make it my first port of call. I would look to, this is with everyone, I'd look to implement EAs, natural glucose disposal agents. What do you get from them? It's going to be not going to be easier to use. We could then look into things like metformin. Metformin is going to be an insulin sensitizer as well as help with just general health, general longevity. So that'll be the next port of call, and then we can then to look into things like insulin. But like in terms of who should use it, who shouldn't use it, anyone could necessarily use it. I don't think you need to though, and I genuinely don't think you really need to unless you are a very heavy bodybuilder, and you're shoveling down loads of food, or the other end of the spectrum where you just want longevity in your life, and rather than like blasting and cruising, you are someone that's just taking a TRT dose, maybe slightly super physiological, that also wants to take growth hormone and insulin to have like the three bioidentical hormones that we'd have, just to kind of keep you going and keep you efficient. But I think it's something that, especially like last year and the year before, everyone does it now. And I think that's the issue, where everyone does it because as soon as someone big or someone that's knowledgeable says it, everyone jumps on that bandwagon just because someone's done it. And I think it's important to look at why you're using it. You know, how are you going to titrate upwards, or strategy, not that you do with insulin, but you do as like and it's just important to know what you're getting yourself into, why you're actually using it, and what benefits you're going to get. And then once you kind of have those questions and you can answer that correctly based on your own views and opinions, you can definitely take it. But I wouldn't just, like, if I was eating 300 carbs and my blood glucose was in check, I'm not just going to take insulin for the sake of taking it because I'm taking testosterone and growth hormone as well.
Oh, sorry, it's lagging. My next question is, with your clients who aspire to be amateur bodybuilders, what are the most common mistakes you see?
Most common mistakes are not knowing what they've signed up for. And that's something I'm a real big believer in as a coach. And as you know for yourself, I'll always explain the worst case scenario, or within reason. I'll always let you know how bad it could potentially be. I'll always talk you through like you potentially going through the depths of hell when it comes to bodybuilding. As a bodybuilder, you're very selfish. You put yourself first because you've got to. You start to lose relationships. You start to lose relationships with people, with food, with a lot of things. Even like sometimes even like relationships with money, because financially you're just like, I've got no money, but I want to grow, so I'm going to go and take Primo, which is expensive, or growth hormone and things like that. And I just think a lot of people aren't aware of that because they just look on social media, they look on Instagram, and they go, this guy competed, he looked really good. He didn't look like he struggled because all he's done is post all his really good shots. So I'm going to do it too. And then they get into it and they go, why am I struggling? Why is this happening? I hate my life. I'm really hungry. Why is this? And it's usually because they're just uninformed, and not aware of it. So yeah, I think it's just a case of being with someone that cares for you. As you know, with me and yourself, like I'll always put you first in the sense of like your head as well. How you feeling, can prep, what it takes to prep now, but can you prep physically, mentally, financially? And then once you're aware of those, you can kind of just go for it.
My next question is, what do you think is more important, diet or training?
Um, so training is going to be the main principles. Like if you're not training hard, if you're not training, not necessarily correctly, because I think that's very person dependent, but you can eat really well and you're not going to grow muscle, right? It's what you're doing in the sessions and how hard you're training and how smart you're training as well, and then how you're fueling that. So I think you can't necessarily just have one or the other. I think you want to be successful, but at the end of the day, if you look at guys, I know you like Lee Priest, guys like that,
Yeah.
they train very hard and then they fuel their performance. Yes, it may be that they fuel it from McDonald's, but ultimately, the grand scheme of things is it's calories in versus calories out. You know, once you've done that, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter because it does, but as long as you're training hard, I think training should come first. I think training beats diet, and then it's like the next step is diet. Then we can go from calories to make sure you're getting enough protein to enough carbs, and then it's like, right, are they digesting well? Are they single ingredient foods? Are they allowing you to recover? So yeah, the short answer to that question would be training first, because that's going to be the building blocks of everything realistically.
My next question is, Do you enjoy seeing your own bodybuilding progress or your clients' bodybuilding progress more?
Definitely my clients, 100%. I think because I'm not the best at bodybuilding, and my results may be a little bit slower than other kind of clients, but having competed myself and stood on that stage and seeing the results and everything compared to going to a client show, being there with them, putting in the effort of, the intricacies of does their tan look good? Are they peaked? Are they flattening out? Like I like to do what I had done to me, but to other people. I think that that's ultimately why I do it because I will always be, and I've said this for years now, I will be a much better bodybuilding coach, excuse me, than I would be a bodybuilder myself. So I think I'm able to push people to the, like the upper extremities of bodybuilding, and I can live through that through myself. I get a lot of joy, and when I see good check-in pictures come in, the smile I have, and just the want to do better for them, and not just for myself. The money's coming in now. It's like I see a transformation. I then think about, like for a lot of my clients, we've worked together for like 3+ years, and it's like, right, here's the transformation, but it's so much more than how they look now. It's what they've gone through, the tough times they've had, whether it mentally, physically, financially, all that kind of stuff. I think, in fact, I know without a doubt, it's definitely I get a lot more joy from seeing my clients' results than I do from my own results.
Um, in terms of the direction for Enhanced by Harris, do you want to move
Thank you.
more into like competitor coaching or lifestyle coaching?
Um, I get a lot of joy from both. I think at the minute anyway, I get just as much joy from someone losing 20, 30, 40 kilos and having a healthy lifestyle, knowing I've had a good impact on them. Just as much joy as I do from putting someone on stage. I think the thing I enjoy about the bodybuilding aspect of things is the intricacies, the in-depth, the constant, support, the constant changes and all that kind of stuff, and looking at how when you are legit peeled and you are stage lean, everything can change from hour to hour. Whereas with the lifestyle things, it's like you're not talking as much unless it's needed, but you see just as much changes, and I think it's equally as good and more important for them because you're changing them for the better. Whereas what you're doing in a bodybuilding client is like you're just agreeing to help them kill themselves, if that makes sense, because of how, like what they're going through and like the drugs they're putting in, and you're kind of like, right, this is going to happen, but you've got to do it. So I think it's equally as good. I admire them both as much. At the minute, equal. I think as I get better and get more clientele, I would probably push towards wanting to be more a bodybuilding coach just because that's my field of expertise as it currently stands.
Um, my next question is, what are the most frustrating things that you see clients do? Like what kind of things? Yeah.
Okay, most frustrating things. Not communicating. Um, don't get me wrong, I think it's frustrating when someone says something or they don't necessarily act upon it, or if they're always overeating and things like that. But the way I see it now, especially as I go through things, is like what I need to look at is they're doing it, but they're being open and honest with me, and they're allowing me to come into their lives and save them, not save them. That's a bit extreme, but allowing me to help them, and they're being open and honest with me because it's a tough subject. So I think it's frustrating sometimes when that happens, but it's when you start to learn them, you understand, right, this is happening. How can we help it? I think the worst part is people that just don't communicate. And they don't tell me when they've had an off-plan meal, and they'll just lie about it when, I've looked at enough physiques every single day for the last 6+ years. I know when something's happened, and it's then trying to find out why aren't they being open and honest with me? Is it me as a coach? Or is it them as a person? So that's probably the most frustrating things. Or if someone's so or tells me they're so fixed on something, but it doesn't necessarily necessarily look that way. But not like it's hard to explain. I think like yeah, it's a really hard thing to explain, but I think just the lack of wanting to look like they want to be better. You know, like, as I said to you before, actions will always speak louder than words. But for me, even if it's the smallest actions and you can see the actions being done, when I say actions speak louder than words, it doesn't mean that you have to be 100% straight away. It's like the small accumulation of things. So like, right, for example, let's put you on the hot seat here. You're now having cream of rice instead of having a bigger off-plan meal, right?
Yeah.
That's that's your actions being pushed, and I can see that. It's not like, oh, I'm going to do it and then go and have a pizza and another pizza. It's like we're slowly getting towards that. It's gone from a pizza to something more clean to a cream of rice, right? That's the actions there. But when people say that and the actions don't just have no direction in terms of where they want to go, I think that's probably the most frustrating thing. When people have come to you saying what they want and how much it means to them, but they don't actually show you that.
Yeah. My final question, what advice do you have for people who are choosing a coach?
What advice do I have for people choosing a coach? Go with someone that you relate to. Go with someone that is more like you as a person. Um, with the saturation in the market and with all the online coaches there, everyone can put you in a deficit. Everyone can put you in a surplus. Everyone can get you some kind of results. I think the big difference comes in when you have a coach that can empathize with you, that can understand that can understand with you, and kind of knows the journey you want to get towards and what it's going to take, and like a coach that is going to tell you what it's going to take, and like I said earlier, to like make you aware of the extremities of it. Like you can go to any coach in the world and they can do that for you. You know, whether it's someone that's started online coaching yesterday, anyone can diet down, anyone can push up, but it's the intricacies of how they work with you mentally, I think, as well, more than anything, someone that can really rein it in and rein you in when needed and say, look, this is okay. Now we move on, or I completely understand where you're coming from, but we've got to do this. And I think also someone that's confident, someone that may have clients that go, oh, maybe we could do this, or maybe we could do that. And a coach that's going to say, no, we're not going to do that because you're with me for a reason. You know, I'm telling you to do this because that's what's worked, you know. And then I've had it before where a client goes, well, I did this last time and it worked, but it didn't work because that's why they've come to me. I think it's understanding what works, especially when it comes to bodybuilding and stepping on stage. What works isn't always what you need to do. It's a kind of like what works and what makes it as best for you as well. You know, what can keep you as healthy, what can keep you as happy, and what can get you those results as well. So finding a coach that is open and honest with you, has a bit of personality or a bit of your personality, and someone that you feel more than anything you can talk to, someone that you can say, I fucked up. Here's what we're going to do now, you know, or what do you think we should do now, rather than just not saying anything.
Yep. Hang on, it's lagging.
Yeah,
Hello.
I think we're back.
Thank you
Hello.
very much. Oh, thank you very much for joining the podcast. Yeah, thanks very much for yeah. And if people want to find you, where can they like contact you by Instagram or?
Yeah, so Instagram is Ethan Harris, but there's an X where the A would be for Ethan, and then there's an X where the A would be for Harris. So Ethan Harris on Instagram. My link for all my coaching and stuff is in that bio. Whether you were interested in coaching or anything like that, or whether it's, you know, whether you listen to this, I want a bit more detail or just some general questions answered. I'm always happy to help people to be helped and people that are willing to work. You know, I'm not obviously going to do things always for free, but if it's small questions here and there that you think, you know, why should I do this or should I do this or anything like that, I'm more than happy to, you know, be there and be in your corner to help you as long as you're willing to work. So yeah, Ethan Harris on Instagram, and that's pretty much it in terms of socials.
Yeah.